soldier. On the battlefield, I am a hard-fighting soldier. On the battlefield, I am a hard-fighting soldier. On the battlefield, I keep on bringing souls to Jesus by the service that I give. I've got a helmet on my head, in my hand a sword and shield. I've got a helmet on my head, in my hand a sword and shield. I've got a helmet on my head, in my hand a sword and shield. I keep on bringing souls to Jesus by the service that I give. You gotta walk right, talk right.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you very much for being with me on my daily dose. Of course, today being Friday as it is, we're going to be taping our Friday's Fighters. Today I'm featuring a friend of mine, Matt Bishop. He's a member of the church at the Ironton Church of Christ. Matt has dealt with some difficulties in life. We'll talk more about that and ask him about that in just a moment. A basic background on Matt: he, like so many people I know, he grew up in the Lord's church. His grandmother, great-grandmother, mother, aunts, and pretty much anybody in his family, they were members of the church and faithful to that. Matt was exposed to the church and brought often when he was a child, but throughout the years got in with a different bunch of people, got away from the church, and ended up getting mixed up in some alcohol and drugs, and eventually had to do some prison time as a result of that. But the beauty of this story is this: Matt knew where to go. Matt knew where to turn at the end of all of that. He knew to come back to the Lord. And so we're basically going to be talking to him about that. So, Matt, if you would just remind me again the way that you did grow up. What was the influence you had as a child as far as the church goes?
Well, as a child, I was brought often. My mother and father was members of Ironton Church of Christ, and then when they got a divorce, we stopped going. And my aunt Teresa Watts carried me to church throughout, periodically, and then just I slowly just stopped going, and then kind of fell in mingling with the wrong crowd, experiencing alcohol. Then alcohol led to one thing, led to another, and then you enter substance abuse. And alcohol abuse is one of the deepest sins that you can be in. You get in the hole and you actually shake the hand with the devil. I mean, you're living side by side with the devil when you're in alcohol and substance abuse. You come to a point where you at wit's end. I mean, you're looking for escape and a way to come out of it. And for me, with my family and support that I had through them and my church family, if it wasn't for them, then I wouldn't be sitting here today, clean and sober and living for Christ as I am today. You ask yourself, when you grow up as me, with a good loving family, no history of drug abuse or anything in your family, why me? Why did this happen to me? I was raised better than this. So many questions that you have to answer, but I would not take anything in my past and change it now. For right now, the drug abuse and the alcohol abuse is what has made me who I am today. I'm living for Christ today, and through Jesus Christ, I'm healed. And I want to take now and help somebody that may have the problem of struggling to try to do it on their own, and tell them, look, Jesus Christ can help you. The church can help you. A lot of people today do not have people who care, or they try to fight it on their own. And this substance abuse and alcohol abuse, you cannot fight on your own. You need help. You need support. You need the church. You need Jesus Christ. You need people to care about you and love about you. And that's how you make it. That's how you come and come through it.
Well, that's one of the things that I've been impressed with about you, Matt, is not only Matt, your openness. I mean, I came home, moved back to the area, came back to the Ironicton Church of Christ, and basically looked in the directory one day and saw that Matt's address didn't look like everybody else's. I saw that it was for some kind of a penitentiary, a prison, and didn't know what was wrong, didn't know what had happened, and really didn't ask any questions, trying not to invade anybody's privacy. And then Matt comes home, and of course there's a celebration there, everybody's happy, and get sit down with you, and you begin to just open up and tell what happened, tell what you dealt with, what you struggled with, and I appreciate that openness and the courage it takes to do that, and not everybody has that. And then on top of that, I watch you, and you have a genuine concern to help somebody else. You know, there's lines you can't cross, and there's laws you have to abide by, but to help somebody else. And I think you look for opportunities to do that. How do you plan to do that? Is there going to be a real effective way for you to get involved?
Well, first, let me say that you know, it's difficult to come out and express your feelings about this because it's something that you're not proud of. And for many years, you try to hide it, but you can't hide it. Everybody knows, everybody sees. And once you come to the conclusion that, hey, this is where I was, I always try to say it's all right to say that's where I've been, but it's not all right to say that's where I'm going or where I'm at.
Right.
So that's what made it okay for me to say, okay, well, this is where I was, this is what I used to be, but I'm not now. So that made it okay. And for what I want to do now, I want to kind of do some counseling and try to help with people that are struggling or need some help or love to talk to me about it, and just kind of share my experiences because I've been there. I know what it's like, and I know that there's times I wish there was other people other than my family that would have come and actually sat down and talked to me, and maybe I could have opened up and maybe had that one person that I could rely on to help me, and I want to be that person for somebody. And you know, and through Jesus Christ, maybe show them, you know, bring them to church, show them what has worked for me and what is working for me, and it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I know, Matt, you've also got some, especially as far as faithful members of the church. Of course, your Aunt Teresa, she's a stronghold for you, and her husband, Rick, I know. Of course, you don't live far from them on the family property and such, so that must help. But you've also got uncle or cousin or something of that sort that attend the church also, or they're big help, I assume,
they're
too.
big help. They're all, everybody in my family, you know, they stood beside me 110%. Right and wrong, which, you know, for years all they did was pray because I wouldn't listen. You know, so I know the struggles they go through, and you know, and it's tough on families also, as well as the person that is in the substance abuse or alcohol abuse. It is a sickness. It's a very, very much a sickness. You just have to make slowly progress, and you know, and don't turn your back on people with substance abuse. You know, try to help them, encourage them in the best way you can. It's to help them get over it and overcome it.
Yeah.
And there's always hope.
One of the things you mentioned there, and I just happen to know this statistic, when it comes to drugs and alcohol, if someone gets involved in that, there are about 50 family members inadvertently, at least people who know them, that are affected by that. And so it is tough for them. It's not something that they ever know how to deal with.
No.
And they don't know what to do or say either, but those who try can make a difference. And so another thing I mentioned about Matt, and this hadn't really completely taken place yet, but Matt is beginning to dabble, if you want to say that, be interested in preaching some. And so he has an opportunity probably coming up in the near future to begin to preach a little bit. And I know you're going to make an impact on somebody when that starts, and definitely going to impress some people. I've talked to Matt at length sometimes about, you know, and he's not really this way, but just making sure that you're not being ashamed to just move on with what you got. I mean, you can't look back and say, well, I did this, so I'm not worthy to do that. You have to keep going on, and you do your thing, and you help who you can. And so Matt's totally prepared to do that, and I appreciate that about him and all. As far as strongholds, things that you think about God, is there any kind of a passage, or I didn't really give you a heads up, but anything much that comes to mind, maybe a Bible story as a child that might remind you that you can keep on going? Is anything like that you thought of? Or
not right off the top of my head. It's just continue to take it one day at a time. If someone out there is reading this and you are on substance abuse or alcohol, know that there is help, and there is help through Jesus Christ. And there are people who care, even if it's not your family. There's so many families that kind of wash their hands of people that have burned a lot of bridges. A lot of alcohol and drug abuse people burn their bridges, and people and family members tend to say, hey, well, we just nothing we can do. And that's understandable because they're hurt also, and they don't know exactly how to go about it. But no, if you're in this predicament or in this situation, that there are people that are willing to help and willing to put forth the effort to help you get on a clean track, and take it one day at a time. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it's a process, and it's a sickness. Just like you take medicine to get well when you're sick, you have to kind of redo your thinking and process, and you feed it with stuff throughout the church and through reading your Bible, and that's what helps you become healed.
So overall, just knowing that God is there for you, knowing that you have something else to do. Right. And I know one of the keys I've known, and of course this applies here, it applies everywhere, is that when we're trying to come out of one thing, we've got to go into something else.
That's right.
And you cannot be left with boredom and that type thing. And of course, Matt's told me before, not that it's the last resort, but you sit down and read your Bible if you can't do anything else.
That's right.
So you do that, and of course that will take up your time.
That's right.
A good way of taking up your time. So I know that must help. Well, it's just been good to, we're not getting into too much, but it's been good for you to have the courage to talk about this, to mention this, and to remind everybody, especially those who struggle with drug and alcohol abuse, that there is a way out, and there is a support system out there. You just got to find them, because they're not always going to try to find you.
No,
their easy way is to just write you off and let you go. And that's one thing that I appreciate about Ironton, is Matt hadn't been done that way, I don't think, and doesn't feel that way anyway. And he's been given every opportunity to do right, to come back and really just excel at that. So Matt's made an impact, I know, on another young man that has dealt with some alcohol abuse, and so that makes a difference. Everything that you do positively is making a difference with somebody. So I just appreciate you doing this. I've got mosquitoes all over me. Matt's got sweat all over him. So we'll just drop it where we are. But again, I want to thank you very much for being with me on this Daily Dose, and I hope that you've been encouraged by this Friday's Fighters.